Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and today a detailed forecast update coming your way on the Australian weather situation. We've got a strong cold front, or a series of cold fronts rather, that are approaching South Australia, Victoria and Tasmania. We're also going to be talking about some very heavy rainfall expected for far north Queensland, and we'll take a look at some heavy rainfall also on the cards now for Western Australia. And another cold snap is also inbound to New South Wales and Victoria as well. All of that plus more coming up in today's weather update. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and also leave a like on the video while you're at it. Your support is greatly appreciated. So we're going to start things off over down south. We've got a cold front that's moving through the Great Australian Bight right now. You can see on the radar and the satellite imagery there's really no rain associated with it approaching the coastline right now, but you can see winds across South Australia, Victoria and Tasmania are already starting to get quite gusty. There's spots in Victoria already gusting up towards gale force, and widespread swathes across Tasmania, especially in the mountainous regions where the winds are already approaching gale force or above gale force, especially along the western and the central mountainous areas of Tasmania. So this is a very interesting weather situation to be looking at here. You can see as this cold front comes through, it's not particularly strong in terms of how much rainfall it's bringing. We're only expecting light to moderate rainfall across the Eyre Peninsula and the western half of South Australia throughout the course of tonight. A few light showers are also possible from around 6 or 7 p.m. local time as you get towards Adelaide, but the bulk of the rainfall will be coming through at around 9 to 10 p.m. or up towards midnight for that area, but still only a couple of millimetres expected in the Adelaide metro area. Really nothing to be writing home about. And it's the same story in the western half of Victoria as well, maybe 10 millimetres at an absolute worst case scenario, but the majority of totals will be between 3 and 5 millimetres. Really nothing to be talking about there. Tasmania is the interesting one. We are expecting some moderate falls across Tasmania, especially early tomorrow morning. Up to around midday is when the worst of the rainfall should be clearing out for Thursday, before a stronger cold front, a much smaller cold front might add, but still a stronger one, brings some showers and storms to the Tasmanian west coast and also the highlands tomorrow night and into early Friday morning. We'll be seeing up to 20 millimetres fall across the west coast on Thursday night into early Friday morning. We're also looking at up towards 20 or 30 millimetres in rain to wet snow across the northern parts of Tasmania, which, considering the rivers up there are already very much approaching or at their minor flooding alerts, we will have a little bit of a flooding problem Thursday night into Friday morning, especially if the rainfall falls very quickly and is quite heavy in this part of Tasmania. So just a heads up that there is the chance of a flooding situation in the northern parts of Tasmania and also along the western coast. However, for the remainder of the southern states, Victoria and South Australia, are really not expecting any rainfall. And this cold front is also going to be stirring up some thunderstorm activity across New South Wales, which we will get to later on this video. We're just going to stick down south for the time being. We've got another cold front coming through Friday afternoon for the southern states as well. It's going to be bringing some heavy showers to areas along the South Australian coastline. Really nothing to write home about, but still we could be seeing up to 10 millimetres to start off the weekend on Friday night. Also a couple of heavy showers on the Victorian coastline and some moderate to heavy rainfall in the high country of Tasmania, with a little bit of wet snow mixed in it on Friday night. Continuing in towards Saturday morning, the snow will continue across the west coast of Tasmania, and it could be quite heavy in places on Saturday morning before the rainfall and the snowfall clears out of the southern states, Victoria, Tasmania and South Australia on Sunday morning. And this is going to make way to the very cold weather, which we will talk about in just a second, but not before we talk about the rainfall accumulations. Now, over the next 5 days, which is when the majority of this rainfall will be happening, and there's really not much rainfall expected after this weather event or the series of cold fronts, we're seeing up towards 20 millimetres of rainfall across South Australia. The Eyre Peninsula receiving an average of around 5 to 10 millimetres, but again, the rainfall is going to be quite hit and miss there. Adelaide expecting a solid 8 millimetres or so. That is decent rainfall, I guess. The majority of that's going to be coming in Friday night, but again, really quite disappointing totals across South Australia. And it is a similar story across Victoria as well. Nothing really too heavy, apart from the southwest corner of the state where there is a pretty solid 20 to 25 millimetres expected. Again, the majority of that coming through Friday night. The west coast of Tasmania is really the only place picking up some decent rainfall here. About 50 to 60, maybe 70 millimetres in one or two places, with about 10 centimetres of wet snow mixed in. So some good rainfall expected on the west coast. Hobart, of course, missing out. And a similar story with Melbourne as well. A couple of millimetres expected there, especially over and towards the eastern ranges of Melbourne, but really not too much in the way of rainfall. The Gippsland Range and the range ranges, the high countries of Victoria expecting a bit of rainfall as well from this weather event, but again, really nothing interesting on the forecast here in terms of how much rainfall and snowfall is expected. There is going to be some snowfall, especially in Victoria and Tasmania, down to around 800 metres on Saturday, so just a heads up there, conditions are going to be very cold and primed for some snowfall across the mountainous countries of Victoria and Tasmania. Also, the Eastern Reef is calling for snow across the western half. I don't think that's going to happen at all. Snowfall it does occur every now and then across some of the hills of the western half of Victoria, but I really don't think it's going to be happening from this weather event. It just isn't strong enough. It isn't a strong enough cold front to do something like that. The western coast of Tasmania are expecting some snowfall as well. Some areas could be seeing up towards 20 centimetres, which is the highest accumulations that we can see on the snowfall forecast over the next 10 days, basically nationwide. Now that basically does it for the southern states. As you can see, next week, really not expecting anything in the way of rainfall powered by this very strong high pressure system, which has led us very nicely into the next part of our video, and that is talking about the cold snap that is going to be plaguing the eastern states from next week. Now, if you're a farmer, you're going to want to pay very close attention to the next couple of minutes. We're expecting some very cold mornings and some very cool days starting from Sunday the 28th of July. So put it in the calendar. We're expecting minimum to be around 5 degrees Celsius below average and daytime maxima to be about 3 to 5 degrees Celsius below average across parts of New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania. You can already start to see Sunday morning very cold across the mountainous areas in New South Wales, down to -4, -5 across the high countries there. And it could be even colder in one or two locations. Really not warming up either. In fact, barely getting above zero for some of the mountainous areas. And you can see temperatures struggling to climb into the double digits for a lot of areas across New South Wales, swamped by these southerly winds, which are going to be bringing some very cold air through Sunday and in towards Monday as well. You can see a widespread swathe of 0 or below 0 degree temperatures as far north as Queensland, bringing temperatures as far south as -2 or -3 for big metro areas such as Canberra, Tamworth and Armidale. We're also expecting some cold conditions across the agricultural districts of New South Wales. A big frost day is expected on Monday, even down in towards Victoria as well. Temperatures going down to 0 or below 0 in one or two locations. And once again, struggling to climb out of double digits. I mean, orange not getting above 10 degrees. That's pretty stock standard for this time of the year. But the agricultural communities such as Griffith or Orange or even out towards Cobar and Broken Hill refusing to climb above sort of 12 or 13 degrees Celsius on next Monday. So again, very cold out there, and they're going to be plagued once again by a very cold night on Tuesday, the 30th of July. Same story throughout the day. The temperatures will warm up slightly on Wednesday next week, the last day of July. They're going to get a little bit colder for Tasmania on Wednesday morning, but still very cold across the mountainous areas, but slightly warmer across the pastoral districts and the agricultural districts. And then temperatures finally starting to warm up into the first couple of days of August as this high pressure system crawls closer to the Tasman Sea and pulls itself out of New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania. But just a heads up, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday looking like big frost days across New South Wales, Victoria and also parts of Tasmania, and also into the southern parts of Queensland. We could be seeing some frost mornings as well, especially on a Tuesday. We could be seeing temperatures as low as 2 or 3 degrees across some of the pastoral districts there. So very cold indeed. Temperatures far below the average for both minima and maxima. So the heads up there for farmers. It is going to be very cold, so make sure you do rug up. And there is, of course, at the risk of losses of sheep and lambs in temperatures like this, and also a risk to crops in temperatures like this as well. That basically does it for the talk on all of this winter weather. We'll get over to Western Australia in just a second, but while we're over east, we might as well talk about some of the more tropical weather on the forecast. And I mean, I've just contradicted myself by saying widespread sub-0 degree nights. Well, don't be fooled. We do have a little bit of semi-tropical weather on the way, but the majority of it's going to be happening in the next 36 hours. Tomorrow, we're expecting a few showers and storms to fire up across the central to the northern parts of New South Wales ahead of the cold front that's going to be brushing into Victoria and Tasmania. We're expecting a couple of showers and storms around Cobar, Dubbo and Orange down towards Griffith as well, and some of these storms could be providing some heavy rainfall in one or two locations. So just a heads up there for farmers out there. Expecting some isolated pockets of thunderstorms. The temperatures are going to be actually quite warm on Thursday as well. Tomorrow we're expecting some places to get up towards 20, maybe even 22 degrees Celsius with a humid air mass as well. And you can see convective available potential energy values, which is the fuel for thunderstorms, into the blues, which doesn't look like anything at all. But keep in mind, when you've got convective available potential energy, or CAPE as it is known in the meteorology community at all. I mean, if you've got any values in winter, especially across the southern areas of the nation, that is really something. So these storms are expected to happen. They are basically a certainty on the forecast this time, and they're actually going to be quite strong on Friday night as well. A big energy pull sweeping in across Lightning Ridge from New South Wales, aptly named, and expecting some good showers and storms as well across the northern parts of New South Wales around Armidale and Tamworth from Friday morning into late Friday afternoon and early Friday evening. They should be completely easing off by Friday night into early Saturday morning. And there could be some isolated pockets of heavy rainfall as well from this weather event. Some locations could be seeing up towards 50 millimeters under the right thundercell, and you can see here from the Eastern Bear forecast, the rainfall very hard to forecast as with all pulse thunderstorm situations, but some good rainfall still possible around Moree or Tamworth, between 25 and 50 millimeters of the stuff, and even some good rainfall as far north as Queensland. However, the big metro areas around the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast, including Brisbane, and even out towards Toowoomba as well, missing out on the rainfall completely, and along the New South Wales coastline as well, down towards Sydney, not expecting any rainfall from this thunderstorm event. But this is a very interesting thing to be having on the forecast. It's also going to spark a little bit of a trough in the desert, which could be providing some showers out there, but we'll talk about that in a future weather update. This is a very interesting thing to be having on the forecast at this time of the year, though, and you can tell by my voice, I am quite surprised to see this on the forecast. Keeping things tropical, we're going to move up to far north Queensland. We do have some rain to be talking about up there. It's not all sunshine and rainbows in paradise up in far north Queensland anymore. Some heavy rainfall is actually expected to be streaming through over the coming couple of days. And you can see it here on the radar and satellite imagery, minus the satellite apparently. There is actually a few showers heading out towards Cairns at this time, powered by an onshore flow, and that is providing a little bit of rainfall. And some locations have picked up about 20 or 30 millimeters over the past 24 hours. Again, minuscule totals for this part of far north Queensland, but it's more so the rainfall that is going to be happening later next week that has my head turned. We talked about it in yesterday's update. A few showers expected to continue throughout this week before a relatively dry weekend, and then things start to pipe up again from Monday afternoon into Monday evening. The rainfall picking up by Tuesday. We could be seeing some accumulations approaching 20 millimeters every 3 hours up here, so some quite heavy rainfall around Innisfail and Babinda. Certainly something we're going to keep a very close eye on this channel as well, because this sort of rainfall, it is resemblance of some rainfall that can cause flooding. And as it was brought to my attention yesterday in the comment section down below, a few showers can be on the forecast and 500 millimeters can fall, so certainly something that we need to keep a very close eye on. It's tropical far north Queensland and it can throw anything at us, but I do have a slight hunch that Tuesday into Wednesday morning that there are going to be locations picking up between 50 to 100 millimeters around Innisfail and Tully and Babinda, and maybe one or two pockets, especially around Innisfail, picking up over 100 millimeters and causing some minor flooding in the process by Wednesday afternoon. So this is something that, again, we're going to keep a very close eye on the channel. The rainfall eases off by Thursday, the 1st of August, and it does linger around a little bit in the form of light showers, but again, really nothing compared to what's going to be happening Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But I do reckon that some heavy falls are certainly inbound on Tuesday and Wednesday, and this is going to be equating to rainfall accumulations up to 200 millimeters in this part of far north Queensland here outside of Innisfail. A slight drop in yesterday's forecast, but still a significant amount of rainfall inbound. Tully expecting up to 100 millimeters of rainfall. Innisfail, similar story, up to 115 millimeters. The Townsville rain dome in full swing. Townsville only expecting a couple of millimeters from the onshore flow. Very hard to predict when that's going to be happening, but I'm expecting a couple of days of possible showers for Townsville. Some good rainfall as well around Innisfail, Cardwell and Ingham rather. Cairns really missing out, unfortunately, in the rain shadow. They're only expecting about 25 millimeters. Again, the majority of that will be falling on Tuesday and Wednesday. Some good rainfall as well up into the Daintree. A couple of, I was about to say a couple of millimeters, but closer to a couple of 100 millimeters expected up there. 125 on the forecast south of Wudgil, and some good rainfall as well for Port Douglas, around 50 millimeters of the stuff. Inland locations, though, such as Mareeba and Atherton, really missing out. They're only expecting a couple of drops in Mount Carbine as well. Only a couple of drops out there. So some very good rainfall that is now on the forecast for far north Queensland, and as you can see on the drought monitoring map and the soil moisture map up here, they are quite wet, but they are certainly in some need of some rainfall. Some areas are already starting to report minor to mild-like drought conditions, and soil moisture values are slowly starting to drop there, but by the time next week rolls around, you can see they'll be fully restored to what they once were up in far north Queensland, which is fantastic to see. Again, we will talk about this in a future weather update, otherwise I could talk about far north Queensland for all day. Now we're going to pull things back now and talk about Western Australia. They've just received a pretty powerful cold front, and in the wake it's brought some very cold conditions across parts of the southwest. In fact, temperatures as low as 0 degrees outside of Katanning, and not much warmer across a lot of other locations around the wheat belt as well, so make sure you do rug up throughout the course of today. We do have some good rainfall still on the cards over the next 10 days. A slight drop in the forecast, but it does look like as we get later on this week, we're looking at more cold fronts coming through, especially some rainfall coming into the Perth metro area from around the afternoon to evening hours of tonight. A little bit more rainfall as well for the Perth metro area tomorrow, and also for the south coast. We're expecting rainfall throughout Thursday and into Friday as well. The rainfall getting up quite heavy, in fact, in locations on Friday. We could be seeing up towards 15 millimetres along the Perth coast Friday morning before it slowly does ease off, and it looks like a little bit of a break in the rainfall until about Sunday, when we see another cold front build itself up along the coastline, and this one here looks like it's going to be quite strong with possible damaging wind gusts, some storms ahead of it. And as this one gets ashore here, it looks like a classic cold front that fires up some strong storms before it makes its crossing of the southwest coast. So I reckon for locations between Bunbury up towards Jurien Bay, Sunday afternoon to Sunday evening, there are going to be some powerful thunderstorms rolling through ahead of this cold front coming through on Sunday, so certainly something to be watching out for. And I wouldn't be surprised if this weather system went severe weather warned, or even severe thunderstorm warned from the Bureau of Meteorology, but again, that is 5 days out from now, so still that is just a bit of a hunch. The rainfall continuing through Sunday and into early Monday morning, when the shower pool comes up behind it and delivers some rainfall again to the Perth coastal areas and the Perth metro area. We're also expecting some rainfall to continue along the south coastal regions right through Monday, Tuesday, and then into Wednesday next week, when another cold front brushes through to welcome us into August, the last month of winter, and then more rainfall by the looks of things next Friday. So just a series of cold fronts that are going to be sweeping through. Like I said, one coming through tonight, I guess, in terms of a weak shower pool. Rainfall continuing in towards Friday morning. A little bit of a break from the rainfall Friday, Saturday, and Sunday until the rainfall returns, with another cold front coming through around mid-afternoon Sunday. Rainfall continuing through Monday and Tuesday before two cold fronts come through Thursday and Friday, the 1st and 2nd of August, respectively, equating to rainfall accumulations around the Perth metro area of up to 100 millimetres over the next 10 days. Quite a lot is expected. It's going to be a very wet end to July, especially considering we've already reached our average July rainfall totals around the Perth metro area. I know my area certainly has, with 80 millimetres from the cold front that's just swept through. Very good rainfall indeed. More rainfall expected down in the Darling Ranges, up to 125 millimetres, and the Stuff Manager expecting a good helping of rainfall too, and some good rainfall along the south coast as well. Walpole expecting around 70, and out towards Albany expecting around 50 millimetres of rainfall. Very healthy falls indeed. Also some good rainfall throughout the western parts of the wheat belt. It does get a little bit hit and miss as you get out towards Hyden, Ravensthorpe and Lake Grace, that sort of area. The rainfall is a little bit funnier out there, just a couple of millimetres and a few drops expected. However, contradictory to that, the northern parts of the wheat belt and to the Murchison and the Gascoyne and the Goldfields expecting some pretty good rainfall too. And all in all, this does look like a pretty healthy amount of rainfall to be sweeping in from this weather event. Again, we just can't break these drought conditions outside of Hyden, and unfortunately it doesn't look like this cold front is going to do much help in that. Actually, it seems like it does on this weather forecast here, but I think the drought will continue for the southeastern parts of the wheat belt. Unfortunately, there's just no foreseeable huge quantity of rainfall coming through there, and I do believe totals will remain below average for the remainder of the agricultural seasons. For those in the northern parts of the wheat belt, though, absolutely no fear whatsoever in terms of rainfall. You've already had some ridiculous rainfall totals this year, but the rainfall will continue through the rest of this month and into August as well. I can pretty much assure you guys on that. And again, it's reciprocated in soil moisture values, looking very healthy in the northern parts of the wheat belt, but unfortunately pretty hit and miss in some of the southeastern parts of the wheat belt around Southern Cross down to, like I said, Ravensthorpe and Hyden, and also out towards Newdigate as well. Rainfall looking pretty hit and miss, which is quite unfortunate for those farming areas in desperate need for it out there. Certainly starting to ramble here, so thank you so much for tuning into today's weather forecast. I do hope you've enjoyed it, and if you've got any feedback or a weather report for your location, then please do let me know in the comment section down below. I look forward to hearing from all of you today. Thank you so much for watching to this point. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now, and I could not be running this show without them. Thank you so much. If you have subscribed, if you haven't already, then please consider subscribing, and also leave a like on the video while you're at it. Your support is also greatly appreciated, and I will catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.